the industry and youth. Together we'll be hosting a joint event since 2019 and again in 2021 respectively. GeoWeek has included an industry track and a youth track, both with the goal of bringing new perspectives and new people together within the Geo community. This session will provide space for discussions and career opportunities, as well as highlighting entrepreneurship for young people within the fast-growing geospatial sector, including Earth observations. There will be short talks from early career professionals and industry representatives about their work experience, and thereafter we'll follow with an open interactive discussion where everybody is encouraged to express themselves, moderated by our panelists, my co-panelists, and we will continue to gather information on both communities in this year's GeoWeek theme, which is Global Action for Local Impact. Today, we will be hosting an informal networking event, which will take place once the discussions are concluded in the open area. And with that, I would like to introduce to you my co-moderator, Kamal Ramsingh, who is this year in charge of the industry track here at GEO. And Mr. Ramsingh, can I ask you to come up to the podium, please?
Hi, how's everyone doing? If you've had an industry track like mine, it's been a long day, for those of you who've been there. I've been told to focus my attention on the under 35, so I'm going to pick that row there that the Esri team is in, to just focus and look for responses from that team. Very good. So as part of this opening up, as Toko has mentioned, we just wanted to share a few perspectives around the sector and why should we even consider a joint event like this or a joint track like this. I think the first bit is the rate of growth that we're seeing. We spoke at the industry track about the significance of investment that's found its way into the space sector broadly over the past few years and quite recently, in fact. A huge percentage of that is still focused on the upstream with big capital expenditure going on, still being attracted, the majority of that, plus 60% of it in the United States. But we know, as part of the African continent, that the longer term strategy for us in this part of the world is to focus on building the downstream capability and capacity. That is where our opportunities lie. There are many programs in progress right now across the continent in it's generally driven by intergovernmental partnerships. Ghana in particular partners a lot with Japan for their satellite programs and so forth. But we are still on a continent that attracts the highest level of venture capital, or has been attracting the highest level of venture capital in the most recent past. So there's a huge amount of activity in different parts of this continent around promoting startups, promoting innovation, and promoting new businesses. And that sticks firmly with encouraging youth into our sector, to be able to attract them into the sector, retain them in the sector, motivate them to be able to grow new businesses and bring ideas into a sector that's traditionally incredibly structured in the way that it does things. Of course, the other reality when it comes to the industry, whether it's upstream or downstream, is that it takes tenure, it takes a significant amount of service in the sector to be able to competently produce differentiated products and artifacts, which means we need to start early. We need to start building the talent pipeline much earlier than other general ICT or other sectors. So the two reasons we have to do that is for sustainability, firstly, of the industry. If we want new businesses to be built, we need to be able to encourage new entrants into the business. If we want to encourage new entrants into the business, we have to start building interest in the industry at the point of youth, at the point of tertiary institutions, and even certainly in my country, in secondary institutions where a lot of effort is going into building a STEM skills pipeline in order to create more interest in space longer term. So there are many reasons beyond that, sustainability of the sector. And we've seen amazing presentations today in the industry track from a few of our SMMEs on using geospatial Earth observation solutions for good, whether it's forestry or agriculture, disaster management, etc. We need more of those. We need more innovation around those. And that comes from the youth. So we're looking forward today to hearing from our specialists on their 5-minute, what is it called, lightning speeches. And then, of course, to open the floor to you on getting your opinions on what could GEO do better post-2025 or immediately on being able to attract more youth into this sector. So thank you for being here. Thank you for staying with us. And I'm sure we'll reward you with refreshments afterwards, right? Yeah. And we'll make sure only the people that are in this auditorium qualify for it. Very good. Toko, back to you.
As young people are increasingly beginning to enter the workplace, there is greater need for them to become attached more towards idea-driven goals. So the young people that we have in today's industries are specifically not attached to any particular technology solutions, methods, conventional or sectoral thinking. They're highly digital, and therefore we're looking at a Gen Z, the next generation of young people that is highly receptive to transformative technology, highly receptive to innovation, and adapts very fast to changes in business. For them, that is business as usual, right? The opportunity of technology, innovation, and disruption is heavy at the heart of industry, and still it's perceived as an opportunity for young people to continue to contribute their ideas and efforts. So how do we leverage on this? How do we move forward and create opportunities for these young people to greater and better be able to access and become a part of? How do we actually create these opportunities? Well, entrepreneurship has been posed by this session, and it's definitely one which is particularly pertinent in Africa, where young people, whether they like it or not, are increasingly being driven towards entrepreneurship due to socioeconomic circumstances, but then also just due to competition, a lack of jobs and a lack of opportunities in industries despite education and numerous attempts at experience. So how do we do this? How do we actually create that transformative landscape? Firstly, we need to invest more in business. That includes incubation platforms as well as offering more inclusive range of financial support for young people to better be able to access these programs at a local, national, and international level, as well as to create greater integrated opportunities for entrepreneurs, young people who are working within the geospatial sectors already, who have innovative solutions and are looking to create scalable options out of these solutions that are ready to be studioed and actually lead to those next unicorn trajectories in strengthening the geospatial sector. So entrepreneurial capacities are absolutely at the key of geospatial, and young people have a real complex both challenge and opportunity to better collaborate towards creating greater access and opportunities for themselves and for the geospatial sector as a whole, particularly as we move forward towards and beyond 2025. I will now take a moment to introduce our first speaker, who is a particularly interesting individual. Can I please have a moment to introduce the Vice President of Sales at Pink Matter, Mr. Arnold Hugham. Would you please take the stage, the podium?
Thanks very much. I'm being introduced as an interesting speaker. I hope I can live up to that. Or maybe it was interesting person, I'm not sure which. So first of all, thanks for this chance to speak. First thing I said when we had an organizational meeting online was, I'm not sure that I'm the best person, as probably the oldest person in this room, to be speaking in a youth industry forum. But they all encouraged me to suggested that youth is a matter of perspective. With that having been said, and I'm not up here with any sort of fancy programs or anything like that for youth, and so that forces me into the position of giving advice. And since that's what I'm forced to do, that's what I'll do. So I want to start with my own perspective on career and on choosing a profession in an area that you're interested in. So I guess I would, if it was forced to put this in the perspective or category of giving advice, I would say to the youth, to youthful people, to find your passion. And so I'll tell a brief story about that. So when I was young and driving around in my parents' car, I was the navigator, and I was the guy with the paper map, because that's what we had, on my lap, and I would be telling my father which way to go and how far the next intersection was, and I'd be able to trace our position on a paper map, a road map, with a reasonable amount of precision after some practice. So I had essentially a GPS in my head, or maybe an inertial navigation system in my head, and I was able to do that. Later on, I wasn't a big reader, but what I did read was maps. We had several atlases in the house, and I read atlases like people read books. I just would lie on the living room floor, and I would read atlases from cover to cover, and look at places on the earth, and imagine being there. And what that led, of course, was an undergraduate degree in geography and a graduate degree in climatology. And I stayed with a passion, and then I found my way into the private sector eventually, after trying out academics, which wasn't for me, and trying out government, which wasn't for me, and I found my place in private sector, but still with maps. And I spent a short time away from maps, which, by the way, sort of grew or transitioned into geospatial and especially Earth observation. And I've stayed with that for my entire career, and it's been a good journey. So the lesson or piece of advice I want to pass on, if I may, to people is to find your passion and stay with it. Now, in terms of job opportunities and career development opportunities and so on, what we're seeing from our perspective at a company called Pink Matter, I'm located in Canada. Pink Matter Corporate is located in South Africa. And one of our target markets is the small sat industry in Earth observation. And what we're seeing is I would call it an explosive growth in Earth observation and in the development of small satellite constellations that have small cameras or payloads on board, which are returning lots of interesting information about the Earth's surface. So from our perspective, or my perspective, EO is growing, and it's mainly in Earth observation via small sats. And if you look at a chart, you would find that the total amount of hardware going into space in Earth observation, the weight of that hardware is remaining reasonably constant, but the number of satellites has increased by a factor of 10, which means what's happening is people are launching just as many, if you like, big sats, but a huge number of small sats, and that's where we find the action is. And it's a private sector growth, and it's fueled by demand, and it's also fueled by VC money for entrepreneurs, and that sort of leads into a different topic. And so my last piece of advice is find your niche. In other words, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I never tried it. I'm an employee, not an entrepreneur, but I like to think I have something of an entrepreneurial spirit. But as I say, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. But that doesn't mean you can't find a place in the private sector or in academics or in government if that's where your niche is. So I think I'll leave it there. I think my 5 minutes are up, and so I'll pass it to the next speaker. Thanks.
On that note, it's important to realize that the transfer of skills and technologies is not automatic. And so it's important that youth realize their need to be able to access education and training that enables them to think critically and develop relevant opportunities to apply towards their future, as well as to develop and maintain motivation, knowledge, and practical application of the solutions that they've built and developed in order for them to be able to be competitive in an ever-changing landscape and to be present in the future of GEO. Being aware of this knowledge gap and its opportunities and the challenges that it poses, there is, of course, the risk of talent and knowledge gaps, and so it becomes so much more important that we're able to, as a collective, between the youth and industry, to present the ideation of what this knowledge gap looks like today and in future. On that, I would like to please introduce Ms. Alison Bedoya, who has a bachelor's degree in geological engineering from the National University of Peru. She is an intern at the GeoPathways Peru program with special interest in risk management and environmental conservation. She's currently working as a junior field geologist in a systemic prospecting project in Olympic, Peru. It is my pleasure to introduce you. Please take the stage.
Thank you, Toko. Good morning, so sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the organizations committee to such a warm welcome, and to the public present and those who are following us virtually. It's a pleasure to me to be here with you today presenting GeoPathways. Please. Opportunity for you in Latin America and the world. The next slide, please. The next? Okay. Well, I am Alison. I am 26 years old. I'm from Peru. I am an geologist. Currently, I'm a student from GeoPathways. The next slide, please. Well, GeoPathways is an initiative to the FGDC. It has its beginning in 2017 in USA with the goal of nurturing and developing the next generation of analysis and professional users of spatial data. And it manages the following strategies with its students. 1, connect participants with professionals in their area of interest. Develop knowledge and the skills in the use of geographic information. Conduct research using geospatial data and technologies, and apply knowledge in real-world projects. Mapathon. And the objective of this initiative was to collectively to map the problems oriented to disaster management risk under different modalities prioritization the interinstitutional collaboration of local government and university and the national level, promoting research and development in the field of science and technology. With the winners of the different categories, GeoPathways Peru was born, a wonderful team of young, solid professionals willing to continue developing their skills of the service of the community, and since then we have met regularly together with our mentor based in the USA and Peru. During this meeting, we have developed ongoing training and knowledge sharing and GIS and imagery analysis, open discussions on remote sensing and GIS applications and technologies. This is opportunity. For example, my partner Daniel Leon completed his thesis with the support of Mary Yeo, where he received support of different professionals. Work with government agencies in Peru, like ONIDA, to initiative project working groups where a student can work collaboratively with professionals and apply knowledge in real-world scenarios. For example, the project Manca Wakitai, first place Mapathon 2022 in the category Development of Algorithms and Application, an initiative that seeks to involve the community for risk and disaster preventions. Networking in events like this, where also members of GeoPathways, we had the opportunity to participate as support to the organizational part. Thanks and the fraternal greetings to Amber Kremer and Xavier Bustor, our mentors, for her unconditional support to the team during this time. To the Geo Secretary and the Peruvian Space Agency for the opportunity and for betting on the new generation. So, thank you so much.
With the intersection of youth, we also have entrepreneurship and academia. If we put these together, we have a wonderful opportunity to create innovative research spaces, hubs across the world where young entrepreneurs, researchers, and collaborators are able to get together and expand on issues related to geospatial, as well as to explore new technologies that are and will in future be able to address greater and more complex challenges within the geospace, as well as to collaborate with each other and other organizations, to partner with each other and other organizations. In providing such platforms, we'll actually be able to leverage on and create better opportunity to further encourage the mobilization of and create greater development towards industry landscapes at a global level, which are inclusive of youth and create greater participation of small micro media enterprises, greater highlight on academia and research, and greater collaboration globally. Let me take this opportunity to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Irene Benito, who is the Senior Manager of Government Affairs, EMEA at Planet, and also holds position as with particular interest within the satellite imagery for government at Planet. Ms. Irene, please take the podium.
Hello? Hi. It's terribly echoey, so yeah, you'll have to bear with me. But hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me in this colossal room. I think it's definitely one of the largest places that I've ever spoken at. After the kind introduction, so my name is Irene Benito, and I'm a Senior Manager for Government Affairs at Planet. And I am a young professional, so I'm extremely excited to be part of this youth forum. And I was about to ask everyone under 35 in this room to raise their hands, but unlike Kamal, I've observed the very, very youthful faces of everyone in the audience, and I think I've concluded that all of you are under 35. So I hope you're really going to enjoy my presentation today. Of course, it's super interesting to talk to those that are thinking about starting a career in space, but also those more senior professionals, seasoned professionals, because you'll be able to hear about my experience and how I am doing at the relative start of my life path, of my space path, apologies. So, okay, because I'm more or less at the beginning of my career, I'm not going to be able to entertain you with very, very emotional or very, very impressive stories about a very long and very successful professional path like Arnaud could do. But instead of that, I can do something different. And rather than looking back, I'm going to look forward today with you and imagine and envision my career as a clean slate, one in which I can actually draw up an action plan that contributes to the change that I would like to bring about in my future in the space sector, but also in my future in society, to build the society that I want to be part of. Perfect. So. And I'm sure that many of you are feeling the same way as very young people. You're probably wanting to make sure that our generation, whether you're Generation Z or millennials, because I know no one is older than a millennial here, you want to make sure that we leave a positive note on the world. You know, that we wake up one day and think that we've made something that we're proud of, whether it's inside but also outside of the workplace. So I was thinking about this at some point, some months ago, and I decided to pick several areas in my career where I hope to contribute through, and hopefully this will help construct the society that I envision for the future. And I encourage all of you to do the same. So I'm going to talk about one of these areas today, and this is a goal that I'm aspiring to contribute to, which is to actually help achieve gender balance in the labor market throughout my career in space. And I know that the evils of gender discrimination, especially in the workplace, are given a lot of attention already. And I know that a lot of efforts have been invested to try to reverse this situation. And we've made many advancements towards equality. We have a long list of female firsts that also happened many years ago. We've had the first woman that has gone to space. We've had, of course, female presidents in different countries. We've had the first Nobel Prize to go to a woman centuries ago, well, a century ago, to Marie Curie. So this is clear. We have great role models, and we've done big advancements. However, the path towards gender equality is not a sprint. It's a marathon, and we have still most of the way to go. We have these incredible female role models, but we need to make sure that we take a leap forward and that the change also translates to the population as a whole, not just to these unique and incredible women. So how can I make sure that I contribute to leveling the playing field for women throughout my career in space? I can think of so many solutions that would be helpful if they were implemented. For example, paying women higher salaries to remove the gender pay gap. Introducing binding, but still, quotas in recruitment processes so that we ensure that women get leadership roles. Offering women a better work-life balance so that they can return to the workplace after they have a child. Giving more attention to female role models that will inspire young girls. And this is a very long list that goes on. And of course, these are things that we have to fight for. But unless we become top policymakers or top executives, like many of you in the audience and also many of the people in the panel, this is not something that we can implement individually, especially not as newcomers to the space world. So I think that the most important thing that we can do as young women individually to help advance gender equality in the workplace is to simply try to get ourselves out there. We cannot underestimate the achievements and the progress that we can bring about by just simply being in the labor market, especially in traditionally male-dominated sectors like space, like Earth observation. We need to try as hard as we can to excel, to be the best, to push ourselves. And how am I going to do this in practice? What will be my grain of sand? So the answer is simple. I'm going to try to seize all the opportunities that come my way, and I'm going to put myself out there as much as I can. And I'm extremely lucky because I'm given so many opportunities to excel. For example, Planet was very happy to send me all the way to Accra, to Ghana, to be able to talk to you all about something that I'm passionate about. I'm really encouraged to grow professionally and to work in something that I'm passionate about. However, and I assume this is the case for many people, many young people out there, many young women out there, whenever you're given opportunities, this always comes with a shadow of positive action that is looming above your head. That something people may think, or that also you may think yourself, that you're only being given an opportunity because it helps tick some inclusivity and diversity books. And you know what? And this is now a bit informal, but haters gonna hate. It's my priority to be able to seize these opportunities. I will seize the opportunities, and whenever I have doubts that overcome me, I'm going to push myself. And I'm going to make sure that I deliver to the highest professional standard that I can. Because with my example, hopefully other people will also be inspired and will also be pulled up. And to be honest, this is a huge task in itself, and I think it's a huge responsibility, and it goes beyond the two-dimensional job description. And in my view, if you're willing to put yourself out there and to take opportunities, then you deserve every opportunity that comes your way. So that's it. I just wanted to share a small nugget of how I feel as a young person and about my career in space, what kind of impact I want to have throughout my career. And I really encourage all of you to carry out this exercise, to think hard about your legacy, about the kind of world that you want to leave behind, and what will be your individual grains of sand. And also, if you're not that at such an early stage in your career, think about how you can become an enabler for the change that you want to bring about. That's it. Thank you.
Young people are primed to be the agents of change. For the transition into industry, bringing new, fresh, integrated minds, solutions, and ways of thinking. The opportunity presented by them is actually perfect for the use of building a sustainable developmental future. So, with that, we would like to encourage young people who want to pursue meaningful careers to look towards geospatial sectors, as these careers provide a wonderful opportunity to create a positive impact for our climate. And because many young people are not aware of geo as an option, many young girls are not aware that geo is an option to them that they would be entirely capable at. And building pathways for young people to engage on heavy industry-related topics, transitionary challenges, and the opportunities presented by industry in geo is essential in order for us to greater be able to reach our ambitions for 2025, linked opportunities to the SDGs, as well as net zero ambitions, and playing a critical part of the decarbonization roadmap towards 2050. It is an enormous opportunity to be able to interact with and engage with young people within these professional environments, within these research environments, and to create opportunities for young people wherever they exist. I would like to introduce Mr. Albert Anubon Momo, who is the Vice President and Executive Director, Emerging Markets and Funded Projects at Trimble Inc.
Thank you. I don't have slides. I didn't even, you can hear me, right? Okay, yeah, I think I'm too tall for this. I don't even have a document that I prepare because, as you know, I'm lazy, I don't do that. So, I was a last addition to this panel. So someone couldn't come and they say, oh, Albert can do that. So, you know, as usual, I'm going to be the one replacing someone who was not available. So I was asked to do the same talk to the youth here. And before I fall asleep in the plane, I had a lot of ideas that I thought, you know, could be very good for the audience that that time I thought was full of young students from Ghana. And then I forgot all those ideas. So when I was told today that, oh, remember that youth thing is this afternoon, I said, okay, if I can inspire people, I can do that by just talking about my own experience, right? So hopefully people can get, and especially young people can get a things or two from me. Because, and once again, I'm talking about Ghanaians, you know, I look really like them. I was born not very far from here. I was born in Cameroon 20 years ago. I mean, feel free not to believe that I'm 20. I have my own calendar. So 20 years ago, I was born in Cameroon. And so if they can get inspired from someone being born in Cameroon and now being an executive of one of the largest geospatial company, if that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what could, right? And so I studied in Cameroon, yeah. I got my first master and actually my PhD in Cameroon in civil engineering and in computer science because actually, as lazy as I am, I tried to be an overachiever, right? So I did both for my master. And then when I moved, I did some work here for the World Bank. I did SIG, GIS. SIG, that's how they would call it in French, in Gabon and Cameroon. So I did the first GIS trying to map biodiversity, and I did that alone. So basically, I started in Cameroon, where they have 9 protected areas, and they wanted me to create a system where people can know exactly what they were doing there. And somehow I developed the first GIS on biodiversity, and I did the same thing in Gabon. And I went to the US to present the work that I was doing because it was funded by the World Bank. And we have a workshop like this one in Texas. And I was approached by someone from the city of Baltimore in Maryland. And he asked me, so you know those stuff? I said, yeah, I really do. And for my S-reference here, yeah, I use all the versions that you may know of ArcView, ArcInfo. And they say, we need something like that in Baltimore. That was more than 20 years ago. I mean, your 20 years. That was more than your 20 years ago. There was no such system in Baltimore. And so they invited me there to develop their first GIS. The idea was mapping the assets of the city for Section 8 because they have all those buildings where low-income people are supposed to stay, and they wanted to have that represented on a map. And they gave me 1 year to do that, and unfortunately, I finished the project in 3 months, and I was out of a job. But luckily, because they wanted me to do that job, they gave me the visa that I needed to work in the US. And finally, I got a job at National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, as a contractor, doing something that I love, writing software in GIS. And so I was part of a group called River Mechanics. And for the first time, that combination of civil engineering and computer science, come to good use. Because I'm a civil engineer, I learned, hydraulics. I learned where water is supposed to go. So I was able to write those equations and try to solve them using numeric methods, and meaning that writing a software to generate the result. and putting that on a map. You know, it's very simple, right? Just trying to figure out what's the elevation of the river after an intake of water. So I did that for 4 years, and then there was this thing that you probably heard of, which is called Hurricane Katrina, and I was pulled into a group that was tasked to do the modelization of hurricanes. So I work on a piece called Slush, Sea, Lake, and Overland Surge from Hurricanes. So, and it was similar to my previous job, but this time, instead of looking at the water coming this way, I was looking at the water coming this way in the river, but also the overland surges coming from there. And my civil engineering background, I can solve those equations too. So I try to solve the equations of the water colliding and going all the way, because that's how the flood is created there. I did that for some times, and I have to recall, at that time, I wanted to have American degrees. So I was going back to school while I was doing this. I was going to University of Maryland, College Park to do another master's degree in system engineering this time. And later on, I went to Johns Hopkins to do a doctorate in system engineering because I wanted to, and I like going to school. Fast forward, I moved from NOAA to Rockwell Collins, where I was a project manager for a system called IFIS, which is Integrated Flight Information System. That's the system that is used to display maps on the cockpit of airplanes. So I did that for many airplanes, Airbus 380, Boeing 787, Cessna, Gulfstream. So I was in Iowa, a very cold place in the US. I was there for 3 years, developing that system and leading a team of 30 engineers. Yes, you can come from Cameroon and end up leading a team of 30 engineers, doing some of the most sophisticated things. And after Rockwell, I worked for Bechtel, and that was really my last job as an engineer. I helped Bechtel put together what they call a GIS knowledge bank. Then I start funding that. I don't know if we have so many young people here, but being an engineer is a very refreshing career. It's good for your ego, but it's not always that good for your bank account. So when I had an opportunity to do something else, I moved to GeoEye, satellite imagery, and start selling satellite images in the Middle East and Africa. And I did that for 3 years until we were bought by Digital Globe. And I worked for Digital Globe and Maxar, at that time it wasn't Maxar, for a few months before joining USAID, so going back to the government. And that was probably one of the most exciting parts of my career. At USAID, I was in charge of a program that you guys see all the way here called Severe. So I was on the USAID side of Severe working with NASA to bring geospatial solutions to the developing world. And the hub that you have here in West Africa, so the Severe hub is actually one of those that I designed from scratch. So I'm so proud, so happy of what Severe has become as a program, and I'm really looking forward tomorrow to be at the launch of that Severe West Africa. And so for 5 years, I was, one of the people from USAID doing all that work, making sure that we can use geospatial technology to make the world a better place. And so why not staying there forever? I just decided at some point that I wanted to change and do something else. And that's why I joined Trimble. People may see that as a financial move, but I really want to think that my role at Trimble is still to be an evangelist when it comes to geospatial technology, because I'm in charge of the emerging markets, so places in the world where geospatial technology can still make a huge difference. And I can see with my daily job how we are able to change things, and we are not always, as I love to say, we are not always about money. I was fortunate enough for 2 years to be the chair of the Trimble Foundation. So actually to be able to take that money and use it for the good. And some of the areas where I push for our money to go for free were disaster recovery, and we're still doing that a lot. It was also female education empowerment, and we're still doing a lot on that aspect. And one that I actually decided to create as a pillar for the foundation is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think, and you may notice, in the geospatial world, we still lack a lot of diversity. We need to do more when it comes to equity and inclusion. And I pride myself to try to be part of the solution. So as part of WGIC, the World Geospatial Industry Council, I'm the chair of the DEI committee. I'm part of the PPP committee also. And I do my best to create an environment where people who look like me don't feel like they don't belong. And I'm really glad that we are here in Ghana, that for the first time in a long time, I can have a large audience of people who are usually not represented in events like this. So if that story can inspire you to do more, I hope, and I think I did my job. Thank you.
The continent of Africa is at a crossroads. On the one hand, it faces numerous intractable, sustainable development challenges, including widespread and persistent poverty, increasing competition for resources, and the intensifying effects of global climate change. These challenges are and have been greatly exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. On the other hand, many African economies are growing rapidly. Nigeria, South Africa, Rwanda, Kenya. Whilst over the last decade, significant progress has been made in governance and in sustainable development access, greater socioeconomic transformation, digital transformation, there is still need for development across the continent. Many African cities have become centers of innovation and entrepreneurship. Nairobi, Kigali, Lagos, Johannesburg. And Africans are increasingly shaping their own destinies, developing local solutions to solve the challenges that they face. Perceptions outside of Africa about Africa are also changing. With the opportunities and potentials that the continent of Africa presents, and its people increasingly recognized as playing a critical role in the geospatial community for their past, present, and future contributions, it's important that at this juncture, we're able to note the role of young people in these processes to create greater inclusion and to create greater visibility. This means allowing inclusive engagement in policy processes, decision-making, presence in research, in development, and across the geospatial community. It is absolutely incredible that a meeting of this caliber has a youth track and has youth representation. And certainly I hope that this representation will continue to progress and to be present in these conversations. I would now like to introduce Ms. Pauline Okeo. She is a GIS professional with over 10 years experience and currently working for Esri as a senior solutions engineer in Africa. Ms. Okeo, please take the stage.
I think first I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the rest of the panel for the great insights. I think you've inspired other people, but I also feel inspired by some of the remarks you've made. So one of the things that, one of the comments that Toko has mentioned is being able to seize opportunities as young professionals. So I'd say for me, my career, it did not have an extraordinary start. I think like many other professionals in this industry, my starting point was geography. So I would say the most defining factors for me to get in this industry started with one, my teacher in primary school or elementary, one of my favorite teachers was a geography teacher. My mother happens to be a cartographer, and my father happens to be a surveyor. So all of that, I would say, led to me being here. And my first job after doing geography for my undergraduate degree was to take me away from home. I would say about an 8-hour drive from the capital city of Nairobi to a very remote place where I would spend 3 times a week, about 4 hours a day, following primates and recording their feeding habits and recording this on a GPS. So again, that was just my starting point. It was not extraordinary. But for the youth and for young professionals and people who are starting their career in Earth observation, I would say some of the things that could take you to the next level, I'll just mention them right now. One of the things that I think has helped a lot of youth who have come across is being part of a network, being part of a professional network. So one of the roles I have as a solution engineer with Esri is I support a platform known as Africa Geoportal, and one of my most common activities is interacting with the youth. And I've seen what they've been able to do just by being part of a community. So the community allows them to encourage each other, to support each other, to expose each other to opportunities that come to them. So it encourages a lot of diversity in terms of access to opportunities, and I believe that this will be something that would enhance exposure for any professional who's getting into this industry. So that could be a young professional or someone who's very new to the industry after completing education, but we also have people who are transitioning from other industries into our industry. The other thing that I'd like to recommend is to take initiative. I liked the presentation that Alison gave about the hackathon I think they did in Peru. And such opportunities also provide a means for you to be able to develop your capacity, to start building a portfolio in terms of being aware of all that's available, in terms of content, in terms of technology, and learning how you can harness all of that to solve challenges or come up with solutions that are relevant to your community. So I would say take initiative to participate in some of these things, because that's where you will be able to unlock or untap some of the opportunities to be mentored, to be encouraged again, to be exposed to other professionals in this area. I would also recommend for you to be flexible. So as I said, my starting point was in conservation, but I have found myself transitioning from conservation all the way to being now on the corporate side of things, or on the business side of Earth observation industry. So I'd say it would be good to have that flexibility in terms of you don't necessarily have to be a highly technical person in this industry. you can apply the knowledge that you have or the skills that you've acquired within your industry or within this course and be able to contribute in a different way. So during this week, I think during the industry sessions and all the other sessions, you'll come across a number of professionals. So these are people who are business development professionals, people who are technical marketers, also highly technically skilled people. So all of us are helping this industry grow. All of us are adding value to the industry and also to the sustainability of our planet. So be flexible enough to accept or to be open to work in other aspects of this industry. There's so many opportunities for youth right now. I think given the penetration of technology, I would say especially for Africa, as it was mentioned in the industry track earlier on during the opening session, and I believe it has been mentioned now, we have a number of technology hubs or knowledge hubs coming up, and they are increasing our exposure to opportunities of growing our skills. So with that, I would encourage you to just consider my comments as well as comments from the other panelists as a way to just help you see how you can start off your career or how you can transition further in your career in Earth observations. Thank you.
Absolutely, building pathways for young people to engage within the geospatial sector is so critical. It is, however, not without its challenges, and absolutely the opportunities which it proposes are invaluable. With this, I would like to take a moment to introduce, for the final words and a summary, my co-moderator. And I would like to present an introduction to Kamal Ramsingh, who is the founder and CEO of the Geointelligence Group, GeoInt. He is also one of the most notable authorities and a definite go-to person in South Africa for anything related to enterprise applications. CEO of the ZA Space, who actually have a booth just outside this main hall, main auditorium, and are one of the sponsors to the event. Mr. Ramsingh, please come up to the podium for your final thoughts on the panel.
Thanks to everyone for that. It was really, I really enjoyed the stories particularly. I think the gist of what I took away from there, certainly from some of what Arnold mentioned, it resonates with me greatly. To find your niche, particularly the advice to young people. You know, we'll talk a little bit about some of the questions we want to discuss here potentially to take back to Geo, but certainly that resonated. Finding your niche, finding your passion, and accepting that not everyone is actually an entrepreneur. This is something that I often find that right now, every single young techie inspired by an idea wants to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. You know, everybody wants to be this huge unicorn generating tech business, but not everyone is actually cut out to be an entrepreneur. And that's actually a very, very, very insightful piece of information. And I think the flip side to that is for those of us who are managing young people, who are employing young people, who are mentoring, coaching young people, is to make sure they understand that too, is the opening the doors to a corporate career like we've heard from Albert is phenomenally rewarding. So, and we need both, right? We need established Trimbles of the world that can use the Trimble Foundation to generate entrepreneurs. And so we need both. We need corporate citizens and we need entrepreneurs. So I think that's very, very profound. I think, you know, the way in which you spoke about your story, Arini, really, you know, I wish there were more less than 35-year-olds in here. No insults to anybody in the room. But I love the motivation, and I see this a lot with the young people that I work with, is that strong desire to make an impact, to actually make a difference. That sense of purpose now has transcended profitability and shareholder returns. It's fantastic. And I think the motivation that you've provided for that is exemplary, and it's a message, I think, that all over 35 should bear in mind, is if you want to attract and retain young talent, it's no longer just about the financial reward. There is an entire ecosystem that comprises the employee value proposition now, which was never there before. And that underscored that for me. Albert, your journey, I'm assuming you're writing a book. The Boy from Cameroon. I'll buy that book. But I think the point that you made, the two things that I took away was, and this, the history of our country is no different. South Africa, post-apartheid, pre-apartheid, etc. We're still dealing with that. But when you want to bring talent through the ranks, you need strong role models, whether they are in startup organizations or in large established organizations. And yes, it would make sense when we talk about transformation or bringing in candidates of color in quite a few organizations, that you have senior people, like you said, that look like them. There is a relatability side of things which is very, very important, certainly on this continent, which we cannot lose sight of. And it's absolutely in the sector. The sector needs it too. But I really liked when you spoke about your chairing of the Trimble Foundation, where you're using your position for more than just your own success. It's fantastic. It's a give back. So that those were the quick summaries, and I didn't get all of the notes, but I think that would be. We could go on and have an entire session just on that feedback, but we're gonna pause there. Is that fine? That's perfect. Would you like us to share some of the questions to the audience? I'm hoping the audience is still with us. I can't see them. Yes. Okay. Good. So there were a few questions. Yep.
I think we'll take questions from the audience.
All right. Questions from the audience, but there were also questions to the audience for discussion that we wanted to pose. Some of those. Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience? A question to the audience is, I want to see more youth in this next year. We got to find a way of making sure that we make it worth their while. Clearly, the drinks and snacks was not good enough. We've missed the employee value proposition in this one, but we're going to try harder next year. I think one of the questions we were going to pose to the audience and to the panel are suggestions of how, yes, I got
the questions.
I got them in my head.
You got them.
I'll use them. We all know that GEO is now in the mode of beyond 2025. It's quite an important milestone, and we've been talking about that, and some of us have had the fascinating experience of being filmed with my opinions on what happens beyond 2025. But if I can pose the same question to this audience and this panel on what GEO could do more, how can GEO and its community be more inclusive to SMMEs and young entrepreneurs in a systemic way? And I think that's, for me, the most important part of it. The experiences I've had of GEO is you're trying to be as inclusive as you can, but how do we systematize particularly the inclusion of youth and young entrepreneurs in everything that GEO does? Any takers? To the panel, to the audience, it's intended as an open conversation at this time. Any takers on this side? Any ideas of how GEO could be more inclusive systemically?
Well, I can say something as a young old person. I think that, I'm also, I think someone was sharing their experience of not coming from the GEO directly world, and I come from finance. So I started working in sustainable finance and then in Morgan Stanley. So imagine how far away I am from those days. And life, by chance, has brought me to the Earth observation world, but it's really been by chance. So it's been a chain of events that have made me land in Planet, or in the place that I am today. And I think that in order to attract more talent, in order to attract more diverse talent, in order to attract economists and entrepreneurs, the GEO world has to be, or the geospatial sector has to be more out there too. So we always think that people know about us. We think that when we go out there and we talk to people, we've really gone sufficiently far enough, and that's not really the case. Like, you walk into, especially in universities, you walk into any social science department, and people do not think that they have absolutely anything to do with space. So I think that's a big, lesson for everyone probably. Like, we need to get as far away from the industry and from the sector as possible to be able to reach the most diverse sector possible. And it's a cool industry. Like, who doesn't want to work in space? Like, Elon Musk has done a lot for us, in all honesty. Like, it's our moment to ride the wave. And I think we should not miss this opportunity.
Hello, my name is Benjamin. I think a way to get more people into Geo or getting more relevant to everybody is to add something to Geo. So Geo, GIS health, GIS banking, GIS, all of that will easily bring people into that space. Wherever, for example, I'm passionate about digital health, but if you put GIS to it, it makes a lot of more sense. So in that way, I think you can find experts from other places that can do with the geo component of the data they already have. And that leads me to another question, if this is the right time to ask it, or I just wait this particular conversation over.
Repeat did you ask a question? Just repeat that, please.
Did you get what I said first?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question would be, in geo, what is the most important thing? Is it the geospatial data, or is this the geo skills, technical skills, right, or is which one is the ultimate? And also at the backdrop that data is becoming everything now, so which one is strongest right now?
Good.
Thank you.
So what are the priorities for geo? Is it skills or is it the data?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone want to have a shot at that? Anyone from geo want to volunteer an opinion on that? Is it both? It's probably both. Oh, there's someone at the back.
What I know about geo concerns about our environment, ocean, land, even the atmosphere. So the atmosphere, that is the skies, the planets, and the seas, and our land, and everything on it, the environment, even all the animals, how the relationship between human being and our environment.
Okay. Can someone respond to that? That's a bigger question than is it data or skills. Okay. So can we note those for now? And just move to the second question. Your phone keeps locking on me, ma'am. You're gonna need to help me on that. But I think as we just follow the theme, the second point was, if geo has to be more inclusive to these young entrepreneurs, whether they're data or whatever, it could be environmental monitoring, using solutions for that. What would be the longer term contribution that these communities can make back to geo? As in, what's the reason for geo to do the support in the first place? Yes, go for it.
Yeah, I think the first thing is we have to put our act together, right? I left home 4 weeks ago. I was in India for the UN World Geospatial Information Congress. Then I went to Germany for Intergeo. Then I did some other things, and then I was supposed to be in Addis for the UNGGIM Africa, and now I'm here for the Geo event. There is maximum 10 people that can say they are in those events. So the crowd that I interacted with in India is completely different from the crowd I interacted with in Germany at Intergeo, and it's completely different from the crowd I'm interacting with here at GeoWeek. And we all know that, right? So if you speak to Geo Secretariat, they will tell you, oh, we want to bring everybody together and do A, B, C, D. If you speak to the UN folks, they will say UNGGIM is the place where everybody should come and we do things. And same thing, of course, if you talk to the organizer of Intergeo, they actually label themselves as the largest geospatial event in the year. And I'm not saying anything about the other GeoWeek in England, you know, where you don't see the same people that you see here. So if you don't have our act together, how can we present ourselves to the external world, including the students? Honestly, I really don't see a lot. We can talk to them about careers in geospatial, and I think people can have rewarding careers in geospatial. I think some of the geospatial companies out there are very, very good places to work. I think some government agencies, I mean, NASA in the US has been voted as the best, public agency for, 100 years, right? And I don't know about NOAA or USGS, but those are the geospatial groups. You won't see them in the press with bad information, right? So NASA, NOAA, USGS, just to mention American institutions, are known as good places. So, and I want to say the geospatial companies too, we don't do bad things. You won't see us on the top of the Wall Street Journal because we were involved in corruption or things of that nature. So we are good companies, we are good institutions. So all we need to do is, like I say, put our act together and present a better image of what the geospatial industry, what the geospatial community is. And if you do that, it's going to be much easier to attract the youngest people, to attract, smart people also.
That's powerful. That's a powerful message. That 10 different groups of people, all that we're doing is expanding the number of groups of people if we don't get that coordination right. And very good.
Sorry, I had a comment also around that. I would say one of the things that I've seen the geo community doing well at the moment is opening up their activities with the youth to broader sectors or broader disciplines. So I'll give an example of in the past few months, we've been supporting a challenge around, or a hackathon around Earth observation. And previously they used to support some sectors or some disciplines that were very much aligned to geo traditionally. But now they open this up to include other aspects, to include aspects of business or finance or access to finance and so on. So we saw that there was an increase in terms of participation and viable submissions because you'd find that for other people, probably they don't know what Earth observation is, but once they see there's this opportunity to participate in a hackathon, that's when they're seeing that they could develop a solution. And also getting that support in terms of, for these engagements, for some of the institutions involved, they've been able to provide the environment or the platform to do this. They provide knowledge transfer support and so on, and we've seen that allow us to get into other disciplines. So I think that's something that so far a number of organizations within GEO have been doing well, so it's just a matter of us building on that. Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for sharing that. I saw a few hands up
Yes, I have the mic here.
Where is the mic?
Yes, I'm standing.
Where are you? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Jeez, I didn't see you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I would like to thank the panelists for sharing the thought. But my question, before I ask my question, so let's look at the room because we're talking about youth. And this is Ghana. So how many university students do we have in this room? how many polytechnic students do we have in this room? And let's go down to secondary school. And we want to engage youth. We want you to participate in geospatial conversation. So what do we do to encourage youth? So if we're talking about, oh, there is funding to bring them from different countries down to Ghana, what of the youth in Ghana to be participating in geospatial or GeoWeek conference? So that brings me to asking this question. So what do we do? So how do we get the conversation outgoing to different institutions? And to Hello Career to join, is it that the space is not that lucrative? Do we need to make it more prominent? So these are questions that we need to ask ourselves, because I can see that the conversation is limited to some certain or set of people. So these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves and find a solution to it. Thank you.
Very, very valid. I think that's the observation we've all made here. You've articulated the thoughts of probably everybody in the room. Thank you for that. There was, let's start, I can't remember whose hand that went up first, so one up here first.
Thank you very much. My name is Mary from Women in GIS Uganda. Thank you very much, the panelists, and I think gentleman from Cameroon, sorry. I'll be the second person to buy the book, The Man from Cameroon. So I think coming to the question, how GEO can be more inclusive, I think we need first of all to ask a question or to reflect on the value proposition that GEO has to its key stakeholders. And key stakeholders here, we mean private sector, we mean the national governments, for example, we mean the youth who are here, the different stakeholders of GEO, yeah? What is GEO offering to the key stakeholders? I would like to speak from the case of Uganda, and I don't think there is a straightforward answer of how GEO can be maybe more inclusive, but I think it's a combination of things that we have to reflect on. I come from Uganda, and currently, I think just like any other developing country, we are grappling with youth unemployment, yeah? There are so many youth who are idle, who are unemployed. So to a country like Uganda, for example, if let's say GEO approached, these national governments, from what they can offer, for example, what can Earth observation do in addressing these challenges that they are grappling with, they would be more interested to listen, to collaborate, to support the initiatives of GEO, just beyond, Earth observation is good in this and this and this and this, but I think we need to put figures together, what actually Earth observation can help, can support the different sectors of the economy in addressing these challenges moving forward. Thank you.
Fantastic point. I think the value proposition bit, you can give it to the gentleman behind you. And we'll end with the lady in front. You'll have the final say, ma'am. But I think the point you're making is so valid. It's the value proposition right now, but there is, from this continent's perspective, there is a next level of value proposition, which is being appealing in order to deal with the real issues we deal with here on a day-to-day basis. There is, like any other organization, you'd have to tailor your value proposition for the market, right? So European value proposition isn't going to be as relevant in the African context. We'd have to solve real problems relevant down here as well. Noted.
Yes, thank you very much for the panelists and the interesting discussion. I just wanted to say maybe when the young professionals joins one enterprise or organizations, very often they need to learn how to respect hierarchy, how to follow decisions, how they perform their job. I think maybe there is not enough training or learning for the older workers or managers of these young people, how to take up these new ideas, how to take up the new energy that came, because the young generation and the older generation, they don't have access to the same information, not same energy, not same motivation, maybe not same network. So naturally, young people will be different. So I think it's also up to older generation to learn how to make best of these new ideas, best of this new energy, and not threaten the young generation, because sometimes they are threatened and they escape the how to say, frames.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, very good point. You manage the innovation out of them, as it said. One down here, the last comment, please, down here, from a timing point of view.
So thank you to the panelists. And I am Angelica Gutierrez. I am a co-chair of AmeriGeo. So from our perspective, I can, some of the questions that I have heard today is, what can we do? What can we do? So I can tell you what we have been doing in AmeriGeo. And it is, the first thing is, since 2018, we started talking about strengthening the national geos. And so we started working with our geo principles. And as in every region, you have excellent geo principles and geo principles that are not that engaged. And that makes a huge sense, a huge change. When you have a principal who's a leader, and I can give you, not because he's sitting next to me, but I can give you the case of Peru. Peru has been started working on their national geo since 2017. We have done mapathons. I can talk about the mapathon in 2021 when more than 800 people from Peru in the middle of the jungle was mapping through their phones over the whole week. So it's leadership what is missing in many of our, unfortunately, in many of our national geos. So, and I think that that's something really good that happened a couple of years ago in geo, that they recognize the importance of going smaller. So rather than having a global everything, now we talk about regions. So we have AfriGeo. In fact, AmeriGeo was created after AfriGeo. We follow the example here in this continent. So we are now 22 countries in the Americas, and every country is doing something different. And as I said, some geo principles are very engaged, some are not. That's the same case probably in Africa. I'm not very familiar with the details of the region, and that's why we are here. And I say we are here because from AmeriGeo, we have 6 geo principles this year here. Peru, Paraguay, Costa Rica, Canada, United States, in Mexico we have a delegation. So we have come to Africa also to learn, to hear, what are the experiences here. It is important, but again, I go back to the point of leadership. If you don't have that, for the youth to engage, you need to have a leader. And that's the case of Allison, who's sitting there in your panel. She belongs to GeoPathways. It's a program that the Geo Principle of Peru has promoted, has put resources. And so you need that in order to, I think that I disagree in the statement of we have to put our act together. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe the nationals have to put their act together. But I think that is a matter of you have leadership, things will move.
Right. So use the structures. There's structures in place. Use the SAGO, the AfriGeo structures that are here try and replicate the extent to which I don't know how many other African countries have GEOs. I know there's an SA GEO, as in South African GEO, but we could look to, your suggestion is expand those structures and appoint leaders in each country or each geography to be able to connect to the mothership, so to speak.
Yes, because you are empowering.
Yeah.
So it's not doing things for others, but
Yeah.
you need to empower.
Sure.
And that's what a good GEO principal can do. Empower their own national organizations and empower his youth.
Okay. Fantastic, strong point to end on. We're going to hold the session there. I want to thank you all for staying. I do know, sir, you had a question. We can chat about it over drinks. I hope there are drinks outside now. I'm going to invite the panel. Any final comments from anyone on the panel? Do you want to say anything, add anything? Thank you very much for your insights and for your perspectives. I think we've solved the title for your book. It's called Men from Cameroon.
The boy from Cameroon.
No, we got a better suggestion from the lady from Uganda, Man from Cameroon. We'll do that. And thank you very much. Florian, we invite everybody to join us outside. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Before we leave, could we have all the participants come down to the front for a group